Okay, everybody, so I am ready to finish my rug. So I have my prototype here, and as you can see, it says it's mocked up. This actually references kind of my duafe symbol for beauty with the lines. These are the lines of the pick, so I just kind of took that motif and played with it. The type of design structure is a free flow with a border. The style of the home is for a craftsman with a bohemian interior, which kind of reflects the style that my husband and I have. And we do have a craftsman home. So I'm kind of designing something that would probably go in our foyer or maybe in the dining room, under the dining room table. Color harmony is a complementary color harmony, red and green. But because red and green and the pure hue are too harsh to the eye, so I'm gonna desaturate some of them and tint some of them. So chestnut would be like a desaturated red, peach would be a desaturated, a tint of a red orange, and green, the sage green and the olive green are kind of the same things. They're more desaturated greens in with different values. I have my paint, I have my paper, I have my palette. These are the palettes. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to mix paints and the type of paint that we're using. These are my brushes. I have flat brushes. Flat brushes are really good for getting very precise in different areas, in flat areas. The rounder tipped brushes are really useful as well when you have like a curved area. And then this brush is really good for detail, okay? This is a number 2 brush, it's very small, and it's good for getting detailed areas. So I have a pencil sharpener in case I want to tighten some things up, but I shouldn't need a pencil sharpener or a number 2 or graphite pencil anymore. All right, everybody, now we are getting ready to paint our Hagopian designs. So for this phase of the project, we're going to be using some paint that's a little bit different from what we've been using, and I'm going to show you first all of the materials that you'll need. So we have a smock, which you may or may not need that. If you don't need it, fine, but you should have some type of covering for yourself. We need Bristol board, which is a hard cardstock. We have fluorescent and regular colored paints, but I want everybody to pay attention to these paints. These little tiny paints are liquid airbrush colors. Some are fluorescent. The fluorescent ones say fluorescent, and the transparent ones say transparent. Then we have some that are opaque. Opaque means that it's solid. You can't see through it. Transparent means that it's sheer, okay? And fluorescent, those are those real bright poppy colors. All right. We also have watercolor, liquid watercolor. And I bought different colors. I bought some fluorescent colors. I bought some that are more just regular colored, like secondary, your basic secondaries and primaries, because I felt like we could have fun with this. So here's my color palette that I'm gonna use for this though. I'm gonna put a little bit of green because I know I need that. And I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of wet the brush. I taped off my border so that I could stay right within here, because if this works the way I want it to, it's going to just be really precise and give me a nice color right in here. Now the paper is not gonna pucker, but it is gonna roll. Okay, so I've created a field here, a color field in the field, right? Because remember, the field is the area of the rug that's surrounded by the border. Now you gotta be careful, because even though Bristol board is good for, it's a heavyweight paper, good for pen and marker, you can use water with it, but if you use too much, it's going to rub away. So right now, I really need to let this dry. This is it's kind of a cooler color, a a cooler red, because red is a warm color, but this is a cooler red because I cooled it down with white and black, which make gray, and I put a little pink in there. So when it dries, I will probably go back into it to make it even more dull. But I'm very careful to not get the paint over in this area. Excuse me, some of the paint did get there, but that's no problem, because with acrylic paint, you can always cover up. So my painting, the underpainting is almost dry, but it's dry enough for me to work with. So I want to show you a little bit of my technique. So if we come in here and we look, I can take this flat brush and I can really start to get in to this area here, okay? And really kind of brush that in, just like that, okay, and kind of control it, all right? So I'm just gonna finish up these little pea pod pieces, and then I'll let those dry, take my tape off, and see what I have. But this, when I was telling you about sage, this is the color of sage. It's like just this really great desaturated green that you find a lot in Craftsman home colors. So I want to show you this. It started out real light, real sheer, and this paint is different from the paint that we've been using. I bought it on purpose because I want you to get used to layering thin layers to make them richer and to create more depth. When you're painting, when you're done, I should not see the underneath of another color come through the top color unless you mean it to do that. And I can tell if you mean it to do that, or if you meant it to do that, or if you were just trying to get away with not doing it. So now I have these darker areas. I'm gonna go in with a lighter version of the color. And that's gonna give me some more variation, and it's gonna help the paint stand out. You see, I still have the darker areas around it. It's giving it more depth, even though this is a flatter painting. It's supposed to be a flatter painting. So I'm not coming to the edge. So this is just a painting technique that may help you. Now the brush fell apart and it caused this problem, but I actually kind of like it. So I think I'm gonna keep it and I'm gonna incorporate it into the design by adding some little flicks around it. Sometimes we have those happy accidents that create something very interesting. So here is my piece. I probably could do some more on it, but this is it. And now I have to put the black mat around it to finish it. But before I do any of that, I'm gonna let this dry. So we need to wash brushes, clean the table, take care of the palettes. All right, so we're gonna wipe the palettes out, wash the brushes. That's the most important thing of these brushes, because we have to take care of these brushes, and we're gonna go over the proper way to take care of them. All right, guys, it is important to get this brush clean, especially with acrylic paint. If you do not wash the acrylic fully out of the brush, it will turn it into a very hard brush and we won't be able to work anymore. Even though the acrylic may be fluid and look similar to watercolor, it is not watercolor. Also, I see some of you painting and you get paint all the way down here. This part is called the ferrule. If you get paint in the ferrule, it'll destroy the brush eventually. Also, when washing your brush, make sure your water's not hot. It should be what we call tepid. Kind of lukewarm, okay? So here we go. This is the first thing you should do. If you have a lot of paint in your brush like this, wipe it off first, okay? And throw this away in the garbage can. Don't put it here. No. Throw it in the garbage can. Okay? You take soap. And you take soap and you put it in your palm of your hand, and you take your brush, swish it around like that. You see how the paint is coming off? And you gently go back and forth until the water runs clean. Now, highly pigmented paints, they're gonna take a minute, yeah, because you gotta get it out. And if you get the brush, if you get the paint in the ferrule, which is a no-no, it's gonna take a longer time because it's stuck down in there. So by me just demonstrating that, you still see how the paint is stuck in there, okay? So now I gotta work really, really hard to get that out. So I'm gonna test it. Just let it run under the water. If I see that it's clean, then I'm good to go. And what I like to do is take a paper towel, wipe it off, and then stick them in the cup like this. Bristles pointing up to the heaven, because that way the water will drain off. Okay? Everybody got that? All right.